The R.E.M times Wicked collection is finally here. Let's go ahead and talk about it. This is the second time that R.E.M has collabed with Wicked, and it's in anticipation of Wicked for Good that's coming out in November. I'll be honest, this is the collection last year that put R.E.M on the map for me. At the time that I discovered this collection, several pieces were already sold out, and I told myself I was not going to let that happen this year. I have the Glenda set, the Alphaba set, I've got the deeper face palette, the eyeshadow palette, and the sparkly lip plumper, and these were the pieces I was most excited about, so let's go ahead and swatch and try on every single piece. I also have some comparisons and some B-roll footage that I think is going to be really helpful for you. And at the time that I'm filming this, the collection is available at Ulta and at R.E.M. I'll link the products in the description box. Thank you if you use those links. Let's start off first with the Glenda set, and this collection is themed around Glenda. It comes packaged like this. This is what the inside of the box looks like, and the vibes are ethereal. You get a lip gloss, you get a liquid eyeshadow, a highlighter, and a lip liner. I've tried all of these type of products from R.E.M Beauty before, except lip liners. I've had a good experience with the highlighter formula and the lip gloss formula, and I have struggled with the liquid shadow. But they've recently reformulated, and I do think the reformulation is better. This shade in particular is absolutely stunning. It's this beautiful kind of light blue-purple duochrome, and I've been playing around with it quite a bit, so I'm going to share with you exactly how I think that I've gotten it to work the best. Basically, what I do is I swipe on a thin layer onto the eyelid, and then I go over it with a fluffy brush and just blend out the edges. I didn't really have this problem with the Alphaba liquid shadow. It may be something about the lighter shades. I think the issue is where the eyelid creases, but for what it's worth, I actually had an okay experience with applying it just like this. Let me take a second and just pop in a little bit of B-roll footage. You can see that if you layer the shade up at all, you're gonna get decent amount of creasing. This was after 6 or 7 hours. You don't get the same degree of creasing if you just wear a thin layer and apply it just like I showed. And the areas on the brow bone look quite nice. So if you wear it as a brow bone highlight, I also think that's a really nice way of using this. I just feel like I have to mention this because I love liquid shadows. And if you had your heart set on this liquid shadow, there is a little bit of finickiness with it. The next product we have is the highlighter. This is called I Come and Go by Bubble. This is a cream highlighter, and it's exactly like the Fembot highlighter that came out earlier in the summer, although that of course was a different shade. The type of packaging it comes in and the formula is pretty similar. I really enjoy this highlighter because it kind of just gives a wet wash of sparkle. This shade on me is a kind of sheer diamond-like sparkle, whereas Fembot is a blue sparkle, and you can see that in these comparison swatches. I have Fembot on top, and I have I Come and Go by Bubble right underneath. This isn't going to be a blinding highlight, but I think it's really pretty and it's user-friendly. It's not the type of sparkly highlight that's unapproachable either. You can see me applying the Fembot highlighter. That one's really been a favorite of mine. In fact, I absolutely love the whole Fembot capsule. Okay, the next product we have in the Glenda set is this lip liner called Toss Toss. Not gonna lie, I was a little bit worried when I saw a lip liner in this set because I thought that this was going to be an extremely light pink. I would say that it is more mid-toned, so I think it will work for a lot of skin tones. It's not personally my preferred type of shade, but I did feel like it was important to try it on just to show you what it looks like. I really like this formula. It is very creamy when you're applying it, but it sets down. Next product we have is a sparkly lip gloss, and these are called the Glossy Bombs. This is the shade Tap to Bubble. The only other shade that I've tried in this formula is Fembot. I already knew that I liked the formula. You get a subtle sparkle with these in comparison to their plumpers that are sparkly. Those are really, really packed with sparkle. The sparkly Glossy Bomb is going to be a little bit more approachable. As I'm applying it, you can see that you have a really pretty purple and blue sparkle. I like to layer my glosses up a couple times to get the most from them, but that's just me. Super happy that they included sparkly glosses in these kits, and I think that the glosses are going to be more loved than the plumpers because some people really can't stand lip plumpers. Now, for the sake of comparison, let's go ahead and show what Fembot looks like. So Fembot also has a sheer base with a blue-purple sparkle. And these two products I actually do feel are very similar. Fembot is swatched on top. You can see a little bit more of a tan brown base with it. Tap to Bubble is a little less sheer and has more kind of purple leaning sparkle than blue leaning sparkle. Here is what the whole Glenda set looks like applied on my face and swatched on my arm. I think the vibes of the set are so perfect, but I really wish these products were available individually. Okay, let's get into the Alphaba set, and I can't help it. I have to give you a little bit of a spoiler. I think all 4 products in this set are a hit. I also think you get the least amount of overlap when it comes to products that either previously existed in the R.E.M line or currently exist in the R.E.M line. In this set, you get a liquid shadow that's a grungy green. The formula is a lot less finicky than the first liquid shadow formula that I showed in the Glenda set. You also get a beautiful, deep, berry wine-toned blush, a sparkly brown glossy balm, and a beautiful, rich brown lip liner. Okay, so let's go ahead and start applying this green liquid shadow. I think that it's a lot more kind of user-friendly, less finicky than the more ethereal shade that's in the Glenda set. I really love that they leaned into some more kind of deep, grungy tones in this whole collection in general. I don't have a liquid shadow from another brand that is quite like this either. So I'm very excited about that. I applied it in a thin layer and blended around the edges with a fluffy brush, just like I did with the Glenda liquid eyeshadow. If you have this formula or if you're planning to get this set, I do recommend giving it a go this way. Next, we have this really deep wine-toned blush. Look how pigmented it is when I apply it to my face, and it blends in so well with my finger. I'm honestly beyond happy that they included a deep blush like this in the collection. Also, no pH products in either of the sets. That is a huge win, I think. Those products are definitely some of the most polarizing in my opinion. And the shade is called Braverism. Like, how cute are these names? Next, we get into the lip combo. So I'm starting off with this lip liner, Defy Expectations. It's a rich brown liner. And obviously the alt beauty girly in me would have also loved to see green products in this collection. But of course, those wouldn't have been as popular in mainstream beauty. Next, we have the shade Wickedness, and this is basically like a perfect cherry cola lips vibe type of gloss. This is a medium opacity, deeper brown gloss, and it has kind of pinkish leaning sparkles throughout. If you wanted to wear a gloss like this more sheerly, you totally could. I feel like it has a lighter opacity than the Fenty gloss bombs do. But especially this brown shade, you can build it up for a medium opacity. And here's what it looks like fully applied. And here's what all 4 products that are in the Alphaba set look like swatched on my arm. I do think that if you have a lot of R.E.M beauty products, including the Fembot capsule, that you're gonna get some more unique shades in this Alphaba set. Okay, now we're gonna get into one of the face palettes. It didn't really make sense for me to get the lighter palette because I just knew that that one was going to be a little bit too light for me. So it comes in this packaging that feels kind of heavy plastic. On 2 of the powders, you have some really pretty flower embossings and then that swirled pattern in the middle shade. And the first shade that we have in the palette is called Cherry. This is a matte blush. And if you're someone who really likes to see the shade names, all of them are printed on the back of the palettes. I think I've only tried one powder blush from R.E.M Beauty before, a brown blush, but I'm finding this blush formula to be pretty user-friendly. I like a formula that's buildable, especially when you have really bright tones of blush. I like you to be able to go in and build it up to your desired intensity. I also like that a couple of the shades in here are more like blush toppers. They have shimmer in them, so they're kind of like blush highlighter combo, and I feel like that adds a little bit of playfulness to this palette. This center shade is so cool. It basically has gold and pink sort of swirled together, so you can kind of customize the shade by sort of getting a different ratio on your brush. And that's exactly how I'm using the shade here, is as a blush topper over that coral blush that I tried on. I honestly had no idea what to expect when it came to this blush palette, and actually I was very pleasantly surprised. I always like to mention I do like to see 3 palettes instead of 2. But with that being said, you do get a decent amount of depth in here, especially considering that 2 of the shades are basically like blush toppers. The last shade in here is kind of like a peach blush topper. I'm already wearing so much blush and blush topper, but I'm going to go ahead and pop that one on my cheek as well. You can see you don't get any chunky glitter. It just has a really pretty sheen on the skin. And here is what all 3 shades look like swatched on my arm. I think it performed beautifully. I just think maybe one more palette that had a deeper blush in it would have been nice. If you're my skin tone or a little bit deeper, I think this palette's gonna work well for you. Okay, next we have one of the lip plumpers. This is called Pretty as a Poppy. I honestly really like the sparkly lip plumpers from R.E.M Beauty. The sparkle is great. You get a medium opacity. The plump is not too bad. It kind of wears down in about 10 minutes. And even when you apply it, it's not like ultra spicy. It's kind of like a medium level of spice. If you know, of course, that you can't tolerate a spicy lip product like that, of course, skip it. But if you can get some really cool shades like this one. Okay, now we are going to dive into the eyeshadow palette. I know for a lot of people, this is going to be the most exciting part of the whole collection, and I don't think that people are going to find that this palette disappoints. Just like last year, you get 12 shades, but this is a substantially more kind of compact palette. And this isn't a small palette by any means, but in the palette last year, it drove me crazy that you had a lot of kind of empty space in the palette, which isn't the case here. You get 6 mattes, 6 shimmers, and you have a lot of really beautiful grungy tones. You do get several duochromes in here as well. This is the shade Festivating. I think that this is going to be a favorite of a lot of people. I love that you get kind of a more sheer shadow like this, and it has a really strong blue-purple shift. This is exactly the type of shade that I like to use layered over other shimmers or as an inner corner highlight or a brow bone highlight. I will have some comparison swatches of the 2 palettes, like the one last year and this year later, but I think the shimmers in this palette are more special. The next shimmer we have is an intense silver, and this is called Oz Teeny. You can see how foiled this one looks as I'm applying it. And check out the swatch on my hand, just so much shine and reflectiveness with this one. I will say that you do get some texture with these shimmer shadows. It definitely smooths out well as you're applying it, but it's something to keep in mind. Like, I probably would recommend using some type of tacky primer just to avoid fallout throughout the day. And I would recommend this with a lot of shimmers and palettes, to be honest. The next shimmer we have is called Land of Oz. I would describe this as a reddish copper, and this shade has a lot of shine to it, which you can see as I'm applying it to my eyelid and as I'm swatching it, but it doesn't have a lot of sparkle. I would say that it's somewhere in between a satin and a shimmer shade. Here is what it looks like fully applied. And I think you can tell so far that every single shimmer that I've tried on so far has a lot of oomph to it. You will see the mattes in action when I do my look, so I'll comment more on that formula at that time. Okay, now we're on to the shimmers in the second row, and first we have the shade called All Roads Lead to Oz. I would describe the shade as a gold bronze duochrome, and you get a decent amount of brightness yet grunginess with this tone of gold. I love how in general you get a lot of grungier tones in this whole collection, both in this palette and in the Alphaba set. It's also nice that if you decide to kind of mix and match a few pieces in this collection, a lot of them are going to really pair well together. Here is what that gold tone shimmer looks like fully applied. Next shade we have in the palette is called Oh Oz. This ended up being one of my favorite shimmers in this palette. Look how high impact it is just dipping my finger into the pan once and putting it on the eyelids. You can really pack it on, but just like that pink toned kind of semi-sheer shade I talked about in the first row, you can definitely wear this one more sheerly as a brow bone highlight and on the inner corner. I also love the way that it contrasts with some of the deeper green shades in this palette. Here is what Oh Oz looks like fully applied. The last shade we have in the palette is called Embrace Your Inner Green. This is a really pretty kind of deep grungy jewel toned green shadow. I think this is probably my favorite shimmer from the whole palette. But I love everything about it. Of course, I love the shade itself, but I also really love what they did with the shade aesthetically in the pan. They did this really unique marbled kind of pattern, and it doesn't go away from what I can tell as you're using it and swatching it with your finger, which honestly is just kind of a nice touch. And of course, like, the thing that really matters is that it performs really well and it's a cool shade. Going right into the two looks I created, I'm starting off with a lighter brown matte and putting it on the upper lid and the lower lash line. Going in with a richer brown matte on the outer V. Then I'm placing that beautiful deep green matte. I love that we get a number of deeper mattes in this palette. I think it's something that's missing from a lot of the palettes that I have reviewed recently. I'm taking that jeweled grungy shade called Embrace Your Inner Green and I'm placing it all over my lid. I knew I had to make that one the star of the show for my first look. Then I'm taking that light green shimmer called Oh Oz. I'm putting it on the brow bone and the inner corner. I added mascara and eyeliner, and here is my first completed look. This was a great, easy, impactful look. For my second look, I'm going to create a halo eye, and I'm going in with one of the lighter brown mattes, and then I'm going in with that really deep brown matte. This one is slightly cool toned. I thought it would go well with the silver tones in the palette. This matte formula from R.E.M. Beauty is really nice. They feel buttery smooth to the touch, and in terms of when you use them in looks, I find them to be very buildable, very blendable. It's hard to go overboard with the first dip into the pan. Then I'm going in with that bright silver into the center of my lid. I'm just applying it with my fingertip. And with a smaller brush, I am taking that pink duochrome and just applying it around the edges of the silver. I'm putting that silver on the lower lash line as well, just to mirror the halo shape I created. And this is my second completed look. I really like seeing that this palette is not a one-trick pony. Okay, now I just wanted to compare the two palettes side by side, the one that came out last year and the one this year. In last year's palette, you can see right away, you don't get as much depth. You have one deeper matte that's kind of a brighter green. That's a huge reason why this palette is definitely a lot more up my alley than last year. I like the grungier tones in general of this year's palette compared to last year's palette. The shimmers in this year's palette are in general just more special. They're more impactful in general, and you get more duochromes and kind of special shades. And the packaging itself is just less bulky and more aesthetic, in my opinion. Okay, now that we have had a chance to go through everything in this collection, I think you can tell it's one that really excites me. The Wicked collection last year is what piqued my interest about R.E.M. Beauty, and then all throughout this year, I feel like they've come out with a lot of really cool releases. And honestly, I think this collection is better than the one last year. The only formula that I had any difficulty with using is the liquid shadows. But even with that being said, I'm still going to get use out of the one from the Glenda collection, the one called Bubble of Brilliance, but I just don't think it's a foolproof formula. What are my absolute favorite parts of the collection? I would say definitely the eyeshadow palette and the Alphaba set. The biggest pleasant surprise was the deeper blush palette. I do personally wish that all of the pieces were available individually, but maybe the reality of doing that is more complicated. I don't know. I still would have loved to see a few more kind of exciting green products, like a green highlighter. I think I'm going to say that in a lot of collections where you have green characters. The pieces that I didn't try on was that there's a pH lip oil, there are some metallic eyeliners, there's a lighter blush palette, a couple of other lip plumper shades, and some under eye treatment gels. Now that I've had a chance to go through everything, I'd love to hear what your favorite parts of this collection were. Are you planning to pick anything up? Are you also a huge fan of Wicked? Let me know if you're planning to see the movie. If you're having trouble deciding between all the different eyeshadow palettes that have come out recently, if you'd like to see some type of roundup video, definitely let me know. As always, I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.